Hi, welcome to Sven's Bricks and thanks for tuning in. As I'm sure you're aware, LEGO have finally released images of the Ideas Submission Jaws set. And today I'm going to be addressing some of the critique online, as well as giving you some of my thoughts on the set. I won't spend a whole lot of time looking at the official images on their own, because there's already plenty of videos out there already, and most likely you've already made some conclusions on your own judging these pictures. But I will just quickly cover that the set has just under 1,500 pieces, and it's retailing at around €150, $150, 130 Great British pounds, so it's pretty well priced. The price to piece ratio is fine, and most likely you'll be able to pick this up a little bit cheaper if you give it a month or two. The set comes with a display stand, which is pretty identical to the one from the T-Rex Breakout set, and I think that the way that the ship hangs over the edge of the set really adds an element of action to it, and I really like the way that they've done that, and this for me is a definite improvement over the Ideas submission. The 360-degree view shows us that it looks pretty much just as good from the back, which means that you wouldn't have to have this displayed on a shelf for it to look good. You could have it in the middle of a room, which I really like, and I also like the inclusion of the yellow barrel, which just adds a little element of colour pop to the water on the back side there. And then here we get a good idea of the scale of the shark compared to the ship, which I think looks really appropriate. More on that later. This image, I think, is the one that's causing a lot of people to complain about the cuteness of the shark. Also more on that later. But I wonder if it's the pink of the tongue that's the main issue here. And I'm also a little bit intrigued as to what they've used for the eyes, as I can't quite make out that. At first I was wondering whether it might be a microphone piece, but on closer inspection I don't think it is. Now you can also display the shark like this, but in all honesty I can't really imagine a lot of people choosing this when they've got the whole boat with the water and everything as well. But it's nice to have the option, I guess. Unfortunately, a pretty standard looking 18 plus box, but we do have some really good looking Easter eggs inside there, so it's going to be fun to build this and to delve into all those small details once I get my hands on it. And of course we have the little plaque on the front here, which is really cool, and it does appear like that is printed, so this is going to look really nice next to the T-Rex Breakout and even the Indiana Jones set, which have similar plaques on the front. So yeah, this is going to look really cool on display. So let's delve into some of the critique that I've been reading about online. First of all, the differences between the boats. Now, actually, I think that LEGO have done a pretty accurate representation of the original fan design. I think that the changes they've made are understandable, and in some cases, a slight improvement on the original. Things that stand out to me the most are, of course, the colour choices. This is the image that is circulating most online, and in this one, the designer used white and red, whereas LEGO have used the tan colour and the dark red. However, the original designer did also include images of the boat with tan, but then also red and not the dark red. And if we look at the actual boat, it's not really a bright red, it's kind of dirty or worn looking. So for me, I think that the darker red is definitely more appropriate. And I also think that the tan colour is definitely closer to the original as well, because this is not a pure white, it's also a sort of dirty, worn looking white. Some other noticeable changes are the colour of the rigging around the front here, which I think are definitely better in the LEGO version. In the original fan submission, the white sticks out a little bit here. It's just a bit too white and plain at the front there. Otherwise, I think that the differences between these two are not really that significant, especially considering how different the LEGO version finally turns out compared to other Ideas submissions. The LEGO version has less studs on the side, and I guess that's a matter of preference as to whether you think that's a good thing or not. Because the original designer, I think, quite deliberately left some studs here, perhaps for a bit of detailing. And LEGO have also used a handlebar piece here, as opposed to the horn piece on the original submission. But I think it stands out a bit more, and it fills this area a bit more than this. So I think that was also a good choice. The mast and the rigging, it's pretty similar. There are some noticeable differences, but I think that in general, that the LEGO version, it's just a bit more streamlined and clean looking. And on that point, I think it's important to consider that the set needs to pop and it needs to display well on a shelf and it needs to be eye-catching. LEGO want to sell this after all, and whilst the original fan submission is fantastic, I think it lacks just a little bit of that cleanness, the polishedness, and the eye-catchingness of the final LEGO version. All in all, I think the critique of the boat is completely unjustified. I think that LEGO have done a terrific job of it. I think it looks really close to the real boat from the film. If I have one little gripe, It's that the hull at the front here, it slopes in quite a lot more than what it appears to do on the Lego version. Maybe a little bit better on the original design, it's a bit hard to tell, but from this angle at least, the hull is a bit more squared off than it is on the real boat. But this is really very minor. Now then, we're going to move on to the part of the set which has received the most critique online, and that's Bruce himself, the shark. And the main thing that I've seen people complaining about is the cuteness of the Lego model. And here, I think I kind of have to agree to a certain amount. I've sort of seen some people saying that, you know, you have to consider that this is a toy at the end of the day, and maybe they didn't want it to look so frightening. But they've not done that for some of the Lord of the Rings sets, for example. So I don't know whether that's really a justified explanation of this. It looks as though the Ideas Submission version of Bruce is quite a bit bigger than the version that we got with the Lego set. But I'm not so sure that the shark should be as big as it was in the submission. It's a little bit hard to tell. If you look at the shark in the movie, it's considerable, of course, but I don't think that the shark looks undersized in the Lego set. There's no question, though, that it looks a bit less ferocious. However, the build for me is a bit more polished, and I really like the use of some of the parts, especially this fairly recent armor plating piece here, as well as the slope here from the Speed Champion sets from last year, and I also prefer the eye where the original submission just had a flat tile. So again, Lego have got far less studs on their version, which is interesting. The fin on the Ideas Submission in particular, I think sticks out a little bit. I definitely prefer this piece here. I think there's no argument, though, that this is a complete redesign of the shark, but whether you think that the shark is so cute that it ruins the set, I guess, is a bit up to you. But for me, it's a negligible issue, and if you really have an issue with it, then as many people point out, you could, of course, add a little bit of gore to it or rework it to make it look a little angrier. Interestingly for me, the Creator Shark set from a few years back actually looks a bit more vicious than Bruce in the Lego set. So it is definitely a little bit puzzling that Lego went for a cuter look. And it may well be that I end up making a few modifications to my set in order to make him look a little bit more ferocious and scary. On that note, let me know if you'd like to see a video on any modifications that I may make to the shark. But finally then, let's have a look at the minifigures included in the set. And I'll say straight off the bat that I was actually really pleased as soon as I saw these. I think that they're terrific looking. I think we've got some great prints, some great designs, a couple of nice new pieces included, and I think that they are very clearly the three characters from the movie. I was especially surprised at Jangbrix, who doesn't share this view with me. But I've also seen some critique around incorrect colours and incorrect clothing for the characters. So I grabbed a couple of images online so we could just have a quick look at these. And if we start off with Sam Quint, the Shark Hunter, I have to say maybe I agree on the colour of his cap. It's definitely a bit darker in the movie. I think it's this one that they've tried to go for because you can see he's got the jacket and the blue shirt like he does in the minifigure. But I think his mullets, his grimace, everything about him is spot on if you ask me. Secondly, we have the Chief Martin Brody. And here I can kind of see the critique with the alternate face without the glasses. But I think everybody is going to choose to display it with his glasses. Because as long as he has his glasses, it's very clearly Martin Brody. There's been complaints about his hair colour, which I don't understand at all. I think it's just about as close as you can get. I don't know what other Lego colour would be closer here. I think this is what I would have gone for. I think his grey shirt and black t-shirt is really good. It's just a little bit of a shame that he has identical leg pieces to Matt Hooper. Might have been nice to have had two different ones there. And the critique that I've read about Matt Hooper online has mainly been around his hat, because he doesn't have that hat very much in the movie, but he does have it. And I personally immediately reacted to how much I love the hair that comes out the front. It really gives that sort of messy, curly look that he has. So I'm going to summarise by saying that I'm really pleased with this set. I think that the figures and the boat are just about as good as we could have hoped for. The shark definitely has a little bit too much cuteness to it. But as I say, if that's really a bother for you, I'm sure that we could make one or two very minor adjustments in order to fix that. And it definitely doesn't mean that the set is ruined, like some people have said. And I'm very surprised to read that fans of the movie and the original Ideas Submission would actually be prevented from buying the set because of this. I think that there are some good improvements made by Lego, especially the display stand. And as I've mentioned before, I also really like this price point. It's not everyone that can afford the €400-500 plus sets. not to mention the amount of space that they take. So this will definitely be a day one purchase for me. And if you'd like to see a full review once I get my hands on it, drop me a comment to let me know. While you're at it, why don't you drop some comments to let me know what you think of the set, what you think of my opinions, what you think of the critique online. Is there anything that I've missed that I should have covered in the video? I think at the end of the day, people tend to forget that Lego are a business. They're a company that are trying to sell products. And I think most of the choices here were made in order to sell the set. But then we also need to take into account stability considerations, which may be the reason behind some of the masts and the rigging and smaller details on the boat. Okay, well that's it for this one. If you've enjoyed the video, please drop me a like, consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.